Hello, everyone. Tonight, we are crouched low in the grass of a dying world surrounded by the humming silence of predators and prey who've never seen a fence. Above the sky is bruised purple, and below your belly, the earth pulses with ancient hunger. You're not human, not tonight. You're something older, broader, furrier, and your teeth are worth more than gold. You're a saber-tooth cat, and you've waited a long time for this kill. So before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you really like what I do here. Also, let me know where you're watching from and what time it is where you are. I'm genuinely curious. Now, turn off the lights, maybe turn on the fan for some soothing noise, and let's get started tonight. You are in the underbrush, barely breathing shoulder blades, twitching with the tremor of a coming leap. A late summer heat hangs in the air like a held breath. The herd ahead shifts nervously. Giant sloths, slow and careless in the open clearing, tugging at sap-heavy leaves. And there at the edge of the group is one that lingers. Young, limping. You don't know how it got hurt. Doesn't matter. You're about to make sure it doesn't get better. You press your stomach closer to the ground. The pads of your paws are silent against the dust-dry leaves, whispering underfoot like old gossip. You are wind and weight and precision wrapped in muscle. Then the moment arrives. The sloth turns, exposing its neck soft and stretching. It lowers its head to scratch a shoulder. One flick of its ears, one step too far from the herd, and you become motion. Your back legs push, your lungs burn, and your claws unfold like ancient daggers. You don't roar. You don't growl. You just move. 35 miles per hour in a blur because saber-tooths weren't marathoners, they were sprinters, and they only needed seconds. You leap, and in midair you calculate the neck, the weight, the arc of your saber-tooth fang, which at full maturity grows up to 11 inches. It's not about stabbing, no, you've never had jaw pressure like a modern lion. You were built for one thing, the perfect puncture. The impact hits harder than expected. The young sloth bucks its shoulder, catching yours at the wrong angle. The kill still happens. Your body slams it down. Your paw crushes the chest and your jaws sink into the throat, but something goes off. A ripple through your skull, a crack inside your face. You barely notice until the taste changes. Not the prey's blood, yours. It drips along the edge of your lip, warm and coppery different. You blink. Shake your head. Something in your mouth feels wrong, like a splinter in the gums. But the body beneath you kicks one last time, then goes still. A victory, technically. The sun slips behind the hill, casting long shadows over the carcass. You pant, tongue out, watching the herd retreat in silence. They won't return. They saw what happened to the limper. You should eat. That's what instinct says. Your belly is raw with hunger and the meat's right there, but all you can think about is the throbbing inside your face. Your jaw is tight, aching. You poke at it with your tongue, and there it is, a crack, a split. You've chipped your fang. Just like that, you're no longer perfect. Odd fact. Modern tigers have stronger jaws, but they can't grow sabers. Trade-offs, right? You drag your kill deeper into the brush just enough to avoid vultures. Not that they care. You're not even finished bleeding yet, and they're already circling. Jerks. You eat only a little. Mostly to prove to yourself you can, but every bite feels wrong. That electric twinge near the root of the tooth, it runs all the way up your skull like a wire buzzing. Eventually, you pull away and lie beside the carcass, letting the bugs take over. Your tail flicks. You breathe through your nose. You lick your paw and press it over your eye. These are things cats do when they're trying not to think. Historians still debate whether saber-tooths hunted in groups or solo. Tonight, you're alone. And suddenly, it feels like you always were. Above the stars begin to leak through the twilight sky like spilled salt. A few bats stutter past overhead, chittering with the night's secrets. And somewhere just out of sight, a pack of dire wolves howls low, close, too close. You feel it now, not fear exactly, but an itch of vulnerability you haven't felt since you were a cub. You rise, shake off the flies, and limp into the trees. Your muscles ache more than they should. One wrong bite, one twist too deep, and now you're not just a predator. You're a walking question mark. How long will the others take to notice? The next morning, you're already moving before the sun climbs over the low ridge. Not for food, not for territory. Just moving because movement means you're still functional, still dangerous, still alive. You pretend your mouth doesn't ache every time you jostle the broken side of your jaw. You pretend the chipped fang isn't cold and raw against your tongue like a broken window in your skull. But it is. You can feel the difference with every breath. You stop by a stream, its water sluggish with late-season silt. Your reflection stares back, broken by ripples. The saber is visibly shorter on one side now, blunt, jagged as if someone had filed it down with a rock, which is more or less what happened. Bone met bone, and you lost. Saber-tooths weren't built for impact. Despite the way they look like brutal war machines in fur, they were actually delicate weapons. The saber teeth were long, yes, but fragile, more like blades than spears. They weren't meant to hit bone. They were designed to slip between ribs or sink into soft throats. But you went in fast, too deep. That young sloth must have twisted just enough to ruin the geometry. A split-second angle change and snap. You swish your paw into the water and let it rest there. Cool water seeps between your pads. For a moment, you do nothing at all. Just exist. Just endure. It's what predators do after failure. Recalibrate. Somewhere nearby, birds shriek and flit into the canopy. A troop of tiny primates is throwing leaves at each other, inventing drama. You're too tired to chase them. Even a joke seems like work right now. Still, fun fact, some modern cats purr when in pain. Saber-tooths didn't purr, but if you could, you'd probably be humming through your jaw just to numb the sting. You slink down the riverbank and into a hollow where the shadows pile like old secrets. The ground is soft here, matted with fallen fern. You've come to a place predators don't usually linger, not for hunting, but for hiding. A grove of silence, of waiting. The kind of place you visited as a cub when the world was too loud. You curl in on yourself and rest your muzzle across your forelimbs. You try not to touch the broken side. Every time your tongue moves, it grazes that jagged edge. It's like chewing glass. And chewing is non-negotiable for a saber-tooth. Without those perfect coordinated jaws, you're not just in pain, you're off the team. You fall into a half-sleep, dreamless, twitchy. One ear flops sideways, listening to things you'll never see. Something scurries past. Something larger sniffs near your kill site. You don't care. Not right now. You're trying to solve a math problem. You've never been taught how to hunt with a broken mouth. Historians still debate whether this exact injury could lead to death or adaptation. Fossil records show many saber-tooths with partially healed fang damage, but not how they lived in between. You wake to the sound of something crashing in the distance. Maybe mammoths, maybe just trees falling from their own weight. You shake your head, snort, and rise. Moving again. Because rest doesn't heal shame, and this feels like that. You cross a slope and head toward the old salt lick where herbivores gather in the open. You're not hunting yet, just watching. Testing the terrain. Even with the pain, you still know how to stalk. Your shoulders ripple under your pelt. Your paws fall silent. You're built like a whisper with muscle memory. A herd of ancient horses grazes at the edge. Short legs, nervous eyes. You lower yourself into the grass. If you wanted to, you could probably take one. Your paws are still lethal. Your body's still fast. But your jaw, you imagine the leap, the bite, the bone-on-bone collision again, and suddenly you freeze. You can't do it. Not yet. The cost is too high. Instead, you roll back slowly, silently. You lie in the shade and watch the herd trot away, unaware they were being spared by dental failure. A buzzard lands not far from you and pecks at a squirrel corpse. It looks at you sideways, daring you. You growl low and brief, but it doesn't fly. They never do anymore. They can smell weakness and broken fangs. That scent travels. Off-topic fact: sharks can lose thousands of teeth in a lifetime and just keep growing more. Lucky jerks. You wander back to the stream by twilight. The sky is smeared with pinks and ashes. You wade in chest deep and let the current pull around your limbs. Maybe the cold will help, maybe not. But the ache feels duller in water. It always has. You hear distant howls again. Not at you, not yet, but they're closer than last night. A broken fang is more than a wound, it's a question. And every night you survive with it, something out there wants to answer that question for you. So you do the only thing that makes sense. You climb out of the stream, shake yourself off like a dog pretending not to cry, and limp back toward the edge of your territory where you can rest near trees with your back to the bark. Because even when you're injured, you're still something to fear. But for how long? The scent of meat hits you first, familiar, warm, thick with the heavy metal tang of blood. But this time it's not prey, it's you. You're panting harder than usual as you climb the ridge. Something in your mouth has started to leak again. The gum around the broken fang feels swollen, now tight and inflamed. You suck in air through clenched teeth, tasting iron and rot. You've killed animals with this smell before, always in the late stages when infection crept in like smoke under a door. Now it's you. You find a smooth, sun-warmed stone near the ridge crest and lie down chest heaving. The blood in your mouth isn't pouring, it's just seeping. But that's almost worse. Slow injuries are the ones that betray you over time. You try licking your paw and pressing it to your jaw again, the way a mother might have done once back when you were small and someone else solved your problems. It doesn't help. Your paw comes away streaked pink. Historians still debate whether saber-tooths could clean wounds instinctively the way smaller cats do. But whatever genetic wisdom your kind once held, it's not enough. You can't stop the pulse under your tooth. It's like it has a heartbeat of its own now. The sun crests the horizon and your pupils narrow to slits. Every nerve tells you to retreat into shade, but that would mean surrender, so you stay right here, bleeding, sunburned, bitter. You think about how unfair it is. You nailed the kill. That sloth should have been textbook, but no. One bad angle, and now you're lying on a rock tasting your own blood while vultures cruise the thermals above, writing your eulogy with every lazy circle. You growl, but it comes out weak. Even your rage is tired now. You push yourself upright and start to walk slowly, stiffly like an animal twice your age. Your limp is more pronounced today. The inflammation is affecting your gait. Your whole body wants you to lie down again, but instinct is louder than pain. You're not dying here, not yet. You reach the edge of the lowland where deer-like creatures graze in nervous clusters. Too fast, too small, not worth the energy, but then you see it, a bloated carcass near a muddy patch already picked over by smaller scavengers. You don't care, you need meat, any kind. You approach teeth bared, hoping the stench will mask your weakness. But the jackals scatter easily. They haven't worked out that you're slower yet, lucky for you. You crouch beside the carcass and tear into what's left. Not elegant, not satisfying, just practical. But the moment your jaws close around a tendon, your whole skull flares with pain. The chipped fang scrapes wrong and your molars shift, biting into the mess sideways. You howl short, sharp, and the sound startles even you. You spit. Blood, again. Odd fact: in some modern zoos, big cats receive root canals and titanium fang implants. You get flies. You paw at your mouth, frustrated. Then again, you shake your head like it's waterlogged. The pain is like someone inserted fire under your gum line and dared you to chew. You take another bite, this time slower, more cautious, less saber, more jaw. It's not efficient, but it works. Sort of. You manage to swallow a few mouthfuls before the pain climbs too high again. You sit back and lick your lips, tasting decay. It'll have to be enough for now. In the trees behind you, something snaps a branch. You turn your head fast and your vision blurs for half a second from the jaw shock. Then a silhouette emerges from the forest line. Another saber-tooth. Bigger, healthier, male. His coat is sleeker, his stride steady. He sees you, then sniffs the air, the meat at your feet, the blood in your mouth, all of it. You lock eyes. You've never been particularly dominant, but you've never been challenged this openly either. Something about your posture must be giving you away. The newcomer takes a slow step forward. He doesn't charge. He doesn't posture. He doesn't need to. You growl again, but it's hollow. You force your body up into a half-threatening crouch tail lashing. But even he can see it, you're hurt. Historians still debate whether saber-tooths engaged in social contests or if territories were fluid, but this feels primal, clear. He wants the meat. He wants you gone. You stare at him, chest heaving, then lower your head and back away, slow, controlled. Not out of submission, you tell yourself, out of strategy. The male moves forward, calm and confident, and claims the spot you just abandoned. He doesn't even look at you again. You watch from a distance as he eats what you softened. He doesn't wince, doesn't flinch. His fangs are still whole. And for the first time in your life, you feel something colder than fear. Obsolescence. You don't go far, just enough to be out of his scent cloud. You find a mossy incline and lie on your side eyes, half-lidded ears rotating in lazy surveillance. It's not safety exactly, but it's the closest thing you can afford right now. You roll your tongue around the inside of your mouth gingerly, testing the ruined edge of the fang. It's still there, sharp in the wrong way, jagged like a broken bottle. And what's worse is what's missing. Half your identity gone. Saber-tooth cats didn't just use those teeth, they wore them. Like banners, like declarations. A saber was your story before you even moved. When you walked into a clearing, prey saw death. Rivals saw proof. You were more knife than cat and everyone knew it. Now, as the wind stirs the grass and carries your scent to whatever wants to test its luck, that signal is cut in half. You close your eyes and breathe through the nose. One long inhale. One longer exhale. It's the same rhythm your kind has followed for millions of years. A breath cycle forged in ancient forests. But this isn't the forest. This is open ground, and your body is leaking history every time you try to bite. Odd fact, despite popular belief, those saber fangs weren't curved for slashing. They were more like precision instruments made for insertion, not chaos. You shift, trying to find a position where the broken side of your jaw doesn't throb. No luck. The nerve is alive and angry, like a buried snake under your gum line. You fall into a light doze again, if only because exhaustion is stronger than pride. In your sleep, you twitch. The dreams come hard and fast, blurred prey, slippery rocks leaping and landing and snapping bone. Over and over. When you wake, it's cooler. Evening again. And your body's stiff like you've been dead for a while and forgot to tell your muscles. You rise slow as erosion and make your way to a fallen log. You rub the side of your face along the bark, trying to scratch that deep, unreachable itch. Sap sticks to your whiskers. Doesn't help. You hiss softly to yourself because sometimes even big predators need to complain out loud. Then it hits you. The thing that's been bothering you. It's not just the pain, it's the imbalance. Your whole skull feels lopsided now. Your bite's off. Your neck muscles are working overtime to compensate for something they've never had to consider. Asymmetry. You were built to be symmetrical. You were made to align. To calculate and strike with precision. Now every step, every breath feels like you're pulling a sled with one missing wheel. Historians still debate the evolutionary trade-off, massive sabers versus fragile utility. You're starting to understand the gamble in real time. You try stalking something smaller, maybe one of those dumb birds that peck at the mud. You crouch, you wait, you pounce, and your jaw misaligns again just from the idea of biting. You twist midair and miss the bird entirely, landing with a graceless thud in the reeds. It's official. You're hunting like a drunk fox. You lie there, chest to the dirt, not moving, just feeling the weight of that failure press into your spine. It's not just hunger anymore. It's humiliation. And worse, something internal is giving up. That quiet, invisible part of you that once said, "You're the top of the food chain," remember, it's gone quiet. You crawl back into the shadows past fallen trees and fungus patches. Back to the zone where the trees don't judge you. And that's where you finally do it. You turn your head carefully and bite down on nothing. Just test pressure, a mimic of a full bite. And that's when you feel it again, not just pain but absence. The air in your mouth isn't shaped right. The gap left behind feels wrong, vulnerable. Your lips can't seal the same. And worst of all, you realize you're not even sure where the tip of your other fang ends anymore. You've lost your mental map of your own mouth. It's like a pianist forgetting where middle C lives. Off-topic fact. There is a species of freshwater turtle that breathes through its butt. That information won't help you survive, but you're trying to stay positive. You sit up again, slow and careful. You scan the night. The moon is rising chalky and disinterested. The wolves will be out soon, and when they come, they'll notice. They'll see how you hesitate before a bite, how you tilt your head wrong, how your steps are heavier on one side. You don't need to be slow to be vulnerable, you just need to be slightly off. You head toward a thick cluster of rocks not for hunting, but for retreat. Somewhere to think. Somewhere the fang doesn't echo so loud in your skull. You climb paw over paw onto a ledge where you can lie flat and still. And you do the hardest thing a predator can do. You wait. Not for prey, not for dominance. You wait for a new strategy. Because now you're something else. A saber-tooth cat with one working saber. The kill lies somewhere behind you, half-eaten and lost to flies. You don't look back at it. What would be the point? There's no pride in a victory that costs you part of your own face. You limp through the undergrowth like a ghost, dragging one leg behind it. You're not used to this kind of pain, ongoing, unsolvable, boring pain. The kind that doesn't scream but sighs. Every step you take jars the injury just enough to remind you who's in charge now. And it isn't you. You pause near a tree trunk to rest, lowering yourself gently onto your side. You can't afford to sleep, but your body keeps trying anyway. It's as if your blood believes there's still some kind of repair process available. But no, this isn't a cut that scabs or a paw that swells and deflates. This is architecture damage. Your jaw is the cathedral of your body, and one of the spires just collapsed. Odd fact, saber-toothed cats didn't evolve in a vacuum. They competed with massive bears, dire wolves, and even short-faced lions. And yet their biggest threat might have been bad dental timing. The forest around you is quiet, but it's not peaceful. It's the kind of quiet that follows a sound everyone heard, but no one wants to talk about. Somewhere nearby, you know the vultures have finished the rest of your kill. Maybe that other saber took the last bites. Maybe the jackals you chased off earlier came back and claimed the leftovers. And here you are. The hunter, limping away from your own win like someone who got mugged at an awards ceremony. You sniff at a nearby burrow, hoping maybe something stupid nested there. A badger, a plump lizard, even one of those flightless birds that looks like it lost a bet with evolution. But the burrow is cold, abandoned, just like your dignity. Historians still debate the social behavior of saber-tooths, but the fossil record suggests many of them healed from broken bones. That implies some kind of care, either from others or from themselves. Slow recovery. Cautious adaptation. You wonder if that's an option for you. You're not dead. You're not starving yet. You're just bruised. You move again slowly toward a slope where the sun peeks through in loose patches. It's warm and warmth helps. You collapse in one of the beams like an oversized house cat trying to remember how purring works. The heat draws out. Your breath slows your pulse. You almost feel okay. Almost. But then your mouth shifts wrong again. A bolt of pain fires down your jaw and into your chest like a lightning rod made of bone. You hiss and slap your paw against the dirt. Not hard, just enough to make yourself feel like you're doing something. In the distance, you hear movement. Not fast, not loud, just deliberate. Another predator, maybe. Or worse, prey that no longer sees you as a threat. You rise to your feet, legs shaking. You test your posture, you try to walk without a limp. You fail. The limp is permanent now, part of your silhouette. It's not dramatic, just enough to register if someone's watching, which out here something always is. You head for the stream again, hoping cold water will rinse the sting from your gums. You lower your face, drink deep, and let the current wash against your muzzle. For a second, it feels good, like the beginning of a new plan. Then you catch your reflection again. It's different now. The sabers aren't symmetrical. One curves long and lethal. The other ends in a rough, raw edge. Your lips don't close the same. Even your stare looks tired. It's not just a tooth, it's a signal. You look different now. And animals read difference the way we read danger. Off-topic fact, certain crabs regenerate claws and octopuses regrow arms. You'll get a little bone calcification if you're lucky, and maybe arthritis. You pull back from the stream and sit. You flex your jaw gently, trying to find a bite position that doesn't scream. It's possible, but only barely. So you begin to experiment. You nudge a rock with your paw. You test how your head has to tilt to get a grip without touching the broken edge. You chew a piece of bark not for food, but for alignment. It's messy, it splinters, it hurts, but it's data. You're learning how to use your mouth all over again. A bird watches from the branch, its head tilted sideways like it's mocking you. You bare your teeth and growl. It flutters off unimpressed. Maybe that's for the best. You're not in the mood to fight something with hollow bones and a brain the size of a raisin. You curl up near the base of a tree where roots push through the soil like sleeping fingers. And you realize something quietly as the sun begins to drop. You're not the top predator anymore. Not because you've become weak, but because your reputation has. The air around you has changed. The whispers have started. Something old and instinctive in the forest is noting your fall. And while it doesn't mean death not yet, it does mean a new kind of life. One that limps. One that watches its back. One that still fights but doesn't expect to win clean. You sleep, light, uneasy, ears twitching at every breeze. You'll get up again tomorrow. You'll try again. But not because you're strong. Because the only other option is not trying at all. You've seen lions. Not in your lifetime wrong continent, but you carry their memory in your bones. Somewhere deep in the ancestral dream where all cats talk in slow motion. You've seen the kind that chase prey in open herds, who kill with short fangs, raw force, and coordinated chaos. You think of them now as you stare at your reflection in a pool of still water, the broken saber-exposed lips peeled back in silent rehearsal. They don't need sabers. Lions, tigers, leopards, they're born with skulls like hydraulic presses. Their bites break bone. They kill with pressure, with strategy, with teamwork sometimes. You were born a scalpel, and that scalpel's cracked. Odd fact, a lion's bite force is over 1,000 ounce psi. Yours more like 600. Not weak, just not built for chewing through armor. Your mouth was designed for access to slide those twin ivory scimitars between vertebrae into the neck under the ribcage clean and fast. You sit now in the heat haze of late afternoon, watching a herd of distant mammoths shuffle through the dust. You won't hunt them. Not now. Maybe not ever again. But they help you think. Their slow certainty, their rumbling steps, it puts time back into scale. You wonder if your kind didn't need sabers, would you even exist? Historians still debate what exactly drove the evolution of those ridiculous teeth. Display killing style competition. A bad joke that stuck. What's certain is that once you had them, everything else had to adjust. Your jaws had to open wider. Your skull reshaped. Your whole body followed those teeth into destiny. And now, with one broken, the system's wobbling. You rise, stretch, long and slow, and start walking a wide arc around the forest rim. You're not hunting yet, you're thinking. Testing how your body moves with this new imbalance. The limp is smaller today. Muscles adapting, or maybe just going numb. You pause beside a fallen tree and scratch your cheek along the bark again. It doesn't help, but it gives your nerves something else to scream about. Then you see it's something small darting through the grass. A weasel-like mammal, twitchy and arrogant. Easy pickings. You crouch, breathe, pounce. This time the bite works. Not great, not graceful, but it lands. You pin the animal under your paw and bite with your good side. You avoid the broken saber completely, and it dies. Not instantly, but fast enough. You sit back panting. It's the first clean kill since the accident. It wasn't satisfying, it wasn't glorious, but it worked. You chew with your molars. Slowly, carefully. The meat is chewy and bitter, but it's protein, and it doesn't cost you agony this time. Maybe there's a future in this. You start noticing things you never paid attention to before. The slope of the land, the way the wind bounces off the trees. How prey reacts to your shadow now, less panic, more curiosity. They don't fear you like they used to. That could be an advantage. If they underestimate you, they get close. You rest in the crook of two tree roots, tail wrapped around your haunch, and let your eyes droop. In this position, you look like any other large cat. Just enough fang to make your species clear. Just enough fatigue to confuse your enemies. Maybe that's the new game. Off-topic fact: cheetahs, the fastest land animals, can't retract their claws. Useless for climbing. Great for grip. You dream again that night. But not of the broken fang, not of the sloth or the other saber. This time it's something stranger. You dream of a time before teeth, a place where your kind was still deciding what kind of mouth to grow. Where the wind was cooler, the prey slower, the rules unwritten. You wake with a strange calm. You stretch, you listen. Nothing immediate, no wolves, no challengers. The sun peeks through the canopy like it's checking in. You walk slowly toward the glade. Not to hunt, just to stand. To be visible. You're still here, one fang short, still dangerous. And lions. Let them keep their symmetrical jaws, their pressure-based kills, their open coordination. You've got something else. Time. And the sheer stubborn audacity to relearn how to kill with half your weapon. You sit tall. Not proud, not cocky, just present. You're not the same animal you were a few days ago, but you're still a saber-tooth. And no one's figured out how to evolve past that just yet. The bones don't lie. You don't know it, but far in the future, someone with soft hands and magnifying lenses will unearth a skeleton not far from here. The dirt will cling to its fangs. One of those fangs will be jagged, short, and clearly broken during life and partially healed. They'll photograph it, measure it, debate it. They'll say, "This animal survived weeks, maybe months after this kind of injury." One will write a paper about it. Another will mention your jaw in a textbook. They'll use words like resilience and behavioral adaptation. And they'll never know how much it hurt to breathe through your own mouth some nights. You lie in the valley, now on a slope where the grass grows high and conceals the scent of old kills. Your belly is half full, which is more than most predators can say. The weasel you took yesterday sits quietly inside you, digested and forgotten. But your mind's still chewing on something. Because last night you followed a scent trail and came across something strange: bones. Old, mostly clean. The remnants of a saber-tooth just like you. Probably older, maybe male, hard to tell. And what you noticed, what made you stop and stare, was the skull. Both fangs were snapped. Not at the root, not fresh. These had worn edges. The fractures had started to heal. You saw signs of regrowth of bony scar tissue where ivory once gleamed. That cat didn't just lose both sabers. He survived long enough for the wounds to forget their pain. Historians still debate whether this kind of healing meant social support or just sheer dumb luck. You lie next to that skeleton now a few feet away, like you're keeping vigil, like you're waiting to ask it questions. How did you do it? How did you live long enough for the ache to quiet down? There's no answer, of course. Just the wind sighing through the ribs. Odd fact, some ancient whales have been found with harpoons in their bones, wounds that healed while they kept swimming. Pain isn't always the end. Sometimes it's just a very long pause. You curl beside the dead saber's remains and let your tail flick over your nose. Something in you wants to mimic its pose. You don't know why, but it feels respectful somehow. Like aligning your skeleton with another's might bring you luck. You lie there a long time. long enough for the sun to shift and the shadows to redraw the lines of your face. You don't sleep, but you rest deeply. The kind of rest you've been chasing since the fang first cracked. When you finally rise, your limbs complain less. Your limp still clings to you, but softer now, like an old friend who stopped trying to be noticed. And your mouth still sharp, still broken, but less angry about it. You move uphill again back to the hunting slopes. You pass old kill sites, some yours, some not. You sniff at places where your scent used to dominate. It's fading. That's the part you didn't expect. Even predators leave a chemical biography behind. Markings, drool trails, scented scrapes on tree bark, and now with fewer kills, fewer patrols, and less tooth to mark territory, your signature is dissolving into the air. Other things will move in soon. Wolves, bears, maybe another saber. You come across a recent kill fresh enough that steam still curls from it. Not your doing. The puncture wounds say wolf. The tooth patterns confirm it. You step back cautious. You're not strong enough to claim this, not today. But that's when you hear it scratching. A rustle, a low snarl. The wolves are still here. 3 of them step out from behind a log. Not a full pack, but enough. You freeze. You don't show your teeth, not yet. But your ears flatten, your legs tense. The leader, a gray with a jagged ear, sniffs the air. Sees you, tilts his head. Something passes between you. A moment of math. He sees your size, your scarred mouth, your limp, your posture, and he decides. They don't attack. Not because they fear you, but because they don't have to. They've already won the territory by outlasting you. They melt back into the trees like fog on fur. You exhale not with relief, but with resignation. This wasn't your kill. It's not your forest anymore. Off-topic fact: crows will remember the face of a person who wronged them for years. You remember that wolf's face? You won't forget the way he looked through you. You back away slowly, tail low, mouth tight. This is what it means to survive now. Not dominance, not victory. Endurance. You return to the hillside and sit under a wide tree, bones creaking, tooth aching, breath slow. The skeleton you saw earlier flashes across your mind. Both fangs gone, still standing once. Maybe you're not there yet, but now you know it's possible. And sometimes just knowing that is enough to get you through another night. It's harder now. Not just the hunting, though, that's bad enough, but the part that comes after. The part where you chew, swallow, and keep the food down without wincing like something bit you back. Every meal is a negotiation. Every bite is a question you already know the answer to. This is going to hurt. You crouch in the edge of the grassland as morning fog lifts in long, slow curtains. A group of antelope-like mammals is grazing nearby, small, fast, and far more alert than you'd prefer. You track one with your eyes, not the strongest, not the weakest, somewhere in the middle. Your mouth waters, and not in a good way. Your body wants food. Your jaw wants rest. Still, you've got to try. You ease forward, step by silent step. Your pads kiss the ground with ancient finesse, the kind your ancestors developed before humans even knew what fire was. You line up the shot. You crouch, coil, explode forward in a burst of muscle and memory. You miss, not because you're slow, not because the prey is fast, but because your body hesitates in midair. Just before impact, your instincts falter, remembering the pain from the last bad bite. You twist away an unconscious flinch and land wrong, scraping your side and skidding through the dust. The herd scatters in a practice spiral, tails flashing like warning flags. Gone. You lie there panting, not moving, nostrils full of dirt and embarrassment. Your tongue lolls out as you try to catch your breath. It tastes like nothing now. Not hunger, not blood, just failure. Historians still debate how many failed hunts a saber-tooth could afford before starvation. 1 in 4, 1 in 6. Whatever the ratio was, you just burned another chance. You rise slowly, shake the dust off, and limp toward shade. You're trying to conserve energy, but your pride still costs more than it should. Odd fact: cheetahs will abandon a fresh kill if they're too exhausted to defend it. You haven't had a kill in days, and even you would abandon one just to avoid another tooth shock. You reach a cluster of fallen logs and curl beside them. Not because it's safe, but because you've learned to hide your silhouette from circling vultures. They're watching again. They always are now. You drift into a light doze, but your dreams have changed. No more perfect leaps, no more precise kills. Now you dream of bones, empty sockets, skulls with teeth ground down to stubs. You wake up biting air, jaw trembling, fang aching. The pain is different now. It doesn't scream anymore. It whispers, constantly. You sniff the air, catch something. A kill not yours. Maybe carrion. Maybe an unfinished meal abandoned in panic. Either way, it's food. You follow the scent trail carefully, tail low, head cocked slightly, your new default posture. The ache makes it hard to hold your head straight. You reach the site. A chunk of flesh still clings to a stripped rib cage, half sunk in the mud. The buzzards saw it first, but they're lazy. They scatter as you approach, though not far. You check the surroundings. No wolves, no other saber. Just the meat and the stink of rot. You nose the kill, sniff, then bite. This time it's not even the fang that flares first, it's your jaw joint. The pressure wrong from the start. The nerves fire upward like someone rang a bell in your skull. You pull back, hissing, jaw twitching, body trembling. You spit blood into the grass. But then you bite again. Softer this time. Slower. The way you wouldn't have dreamed of doing just weeks ago. No saber. Just molars. Just persistence. It works. You chew in quiet, tense victory. It's not satisfying. It's not even safe. But it gets the job done. You eat what you can and slink back into the trees, licking your gums. And then you hear it. The crackling chatter of hyenas. Not your kind of coarse, these are ancient. Heftier, shorter, muzzled. But the vibe is unmistakable. Thieves with bad breath and worse intentions. 3 of them. They saw you. They smelled the kill. And now they're closing in. You face them, not with confidence, not with hope, just with habit. They stop about 10 paces away and snarl laugh at you like it's a joke you've already lost. And you step back, just once. They surge forward aggressive now, tails up, mouths wide. You don't fight. You bolt. Not far. Just enough to lose them in the trees. Enough to give up what you worked for. Enough to keep your life. Historians still debate whether saber-tooths scavenged more than we thought. If they did, it looked a lot like this. Off-topic fact, some modern cats survive entire seasons by stealing kills from foxes. You're not there yet, but you're getting close. You wait in the foliage, heartbeat slowing, jaw throbbing, eyes fixed on the meat that used to be yours. The hyenas tear into it without hesitation. One of them glances in your direction, licks its teeth, and laughs. You don't growl. You don't move. You just watch. Because this is your life now. Bite less, fight less, wait more. You used to lead with your body. Now you lead with your brain. The shift is subtle at first, just a hesitation. A moment's pause before a chase. You start to notice things you once barreled past: the wind's direction, the slope of the land, the way shadows pool like liquid around certain rocks. All these tiny, quiet gifts the world offers the patient. You weren't made for patience, but you're learning. You're moving slower now, not limping, strategizing. That's what you tell yourself. You no longer run toward trouble. You wait for it to stumble toward you. Odd fact, leopards sometimes drag their kills into trees to avoid confrontation. You lacking trees strong enough to hold your weight, settle for terrain. Elevation, blind spots. Anywhere you can disappear just long enough to not be noticed. It's almost poetic. You used to ambush from bold angles. Now you melt into brush lines like you're learning camouflage for the first time. Every leaf is your ally. Every breeze is a whispered suggestion. Go around. Wait longer. Let the others fight first. Today you trail a group of old deer-like creatures moving slow in the heat. One of them limps slightly, the rear leg stiffer than the others. You mark it, but you don't move. Instead, you back off, circle wide, twice. You wait until the sun shifts and the trees cast long shadows across the clearing. When the herd rests, you move in not for a strike but to observe. Close, unseen. You smell the limper sweat. You listen to the way it breathes. And then you pull back again. You're not hungry enough yet, and you know better than to waste a mistake on mild cravings. Historians still debate whether saber-tooths had long observation behaviors before a strike. Most assume they relied on brute force. You're quietly proving that wrong. Back in the safety of the brush, you watch the herd move off and realize something unnerving you didn't want to attack. Not really. Because now you fear the moment of impact. You fear the jolt of pressure on the wrong side of your jaw. The way your brain lights up with fire when the fang scrapes wrong. That moment of helplessness. It's not the prey you're scared of, it's the bite. You find a physic patch of undergrowth and collapse into it, panting hard even though you didn't run. Your muscles are tight. Your ribs ache. It feels like you just survived a battle you never fought. You lie there until the sun fades. Then you rise. Still nothing in your belly. But you're not shaking anymore. You move with intention now. You start to notice carcasses before the vultures do. You check under rocks for rodents. You time your movements with wind and birdsong. You start to build a slow, careful map in your mind. The easiest ambush points, the most predictable prey paths, the watering holes that don't draw predators until later. You're becoming less saber-tooth, more shadow, and it works until the hunger starts gnawing again. Deep hunger is different from discomfort. It doesn't ache, it drains. Your muscles start to feel loose, like your legs are full of wind instead of fiber. You blink more often. You think more slowly. Every decision takes longer. So tonight you take a risk. You return to the narrow gorge where small game cross on natural stone paths. It's tight, perfect for trapping. You haven't used this area in weeks. It's where your fang first cracked. But tonight, you return. Because desperation often smells like courage. You crouch behind a jutting boulder. The moon hangs above like a blind witness. Something approaches. A small pig-like creature. Nervous. Fast. You can hear its hooves click against the stone. You wait and wait. And when it's just close enough, you leap. Not fast, not perfect, but enough. You land beside it, claws slicing across its shoulder. It shrieks and stumbles. You don't bite, not yet. You wrap your forelimbs around its body and use your weight to slam it into the rock face. It's stunned, and only once it's fully still do you press your jaws around its neck on the good side and squeeze. It twitches once, then nothing. You don't roar, you don't celebrate. You just breathe. This is your new method. No showmanship, no grand fang strike. Just gravity, precision, thought. You drag the body to a small hollow and begin to feed. Carefully, slowly. Using your molars, your tongue, the back of your throat. You avoid the broken fang with the same instinct you once used to align a perfect strike. You finish without bleeding. You sleep without trembling. And in the hours before dawn, something strange happens. A fox stumbles across your resting place. It doesn't notice you at first, but when it does, it freezes. It watches your slow, steady breath, your half-lidded stare, your quiet posture beside the bones, and it backs away. Not running, just careful, as if it sensed something. Not power, but presence. Off-topic fact. Elephants mourn their dead. They remember bones, they remember faces. You wonder what the forest will remember about you. Not the clean kills, not the full saber, but the pause, the adjustment, the shadow that stayed hungry and never stopped thinking. They find you before you smell them, not because you're distracted. You're never that, not anymore. But because they're quiet now, smarter. Wolves, though, you're not sure if they're dire transitional or something nameless in between. They move with the kind of confidence you used to own. You're halfway through cleaning the last of your pig kill, using your tongue to scrape the flesh from the rib. Jaw clenched tight to avoid accidental contact with the broken fang. It's almost peaceful. Almost. Then comes the feeling. Not a sound, not a scent. Just that feeling, the air around you suddenly heavier, more aware. You lift your head, and they're there. 4 of them silhouettes in the brush. Eyes catching the light like distant fires. Tails low, ears forward. Not a full pack, but no rookies either. You stare. They don't move, not yet. They're calculating. Odd fact, wolves have been known to test weakened animals for days before striking, nipping, shadowing, watching them try to sleep. And they've been watching you. They saw you on the slopes last week limping, saw you back off from a kill you might have once defended. They've smelled the blood on your breath, the new way you hold your head slightly to the right when you chew. Tonight, they've come for the proof. You lower your head slowly, no bluffing. They already know. One of them steps forward, gray-furred scars across the muzzle, not young. This one doesn't growl, doesn't snarl, just locks eyes with you and waits. You stand. It takes longer than you want it to. Your hips ache from crouching. Your jaw is already twitching from effort. You don't roar. You don't bare your teeth. Instead, you tilt your head, slightly, subtly. An invitation. A warning. They interpret it as retreat. The leader takes 2 steps forward, more confident now. The others fan out, flanking. You do the math. You're bigger than each of them, but not all of them. You're fast, but not fast enough, and your best weapon is broken. Historians still debate whether saber-tooths had strategies for pack predators. Whether they made noise, bluffed, postured. Most assume they fought to the death. But you walk away. Not fast, not panicked, just purposeful. It's not surrender, it's economy. You keep your tail low but steady. You don't run. That would invite pursuit. You walk until the sounds behind you fade into silence. They don't follow. Not this time. You find a narrow ravine, dry and quiet, and slip into it like smoke down a chimney. You lie in the mud. Let your breath even out. Let the shame pass. Because here's the truth no one tells you about aging predators. The world is made of cost-benefit calculations. And when the cost of keeping your kill outweighs the benefit, you leave it. Off-topic fact, vampire bats will share blood meals with starving neighbors, even if they're not related. It's rare and it's complicated, but even monsters have communities sometimes. You don't have that. But you do have memory. And you start to notice patterns. The wolves are boldest just after dusk. The vultures land fastest near the eastern glades. The herds are most predictable during fog. Everything has timing. Everything moves in loops. And for the first time in days, you begin to plan ahead again. Not just for the next bite, but for the next outsmart. You spend the next evening dragging a large stick into a narrow passage, covering old kill scent trails with it. You mask your scent with crushed leaves and old dung. You wait longer than you ever have before. And when the opportunity comes, a young boar wanders close distracted, you don't pounce immediately. You shift the ground under it. You use a loose rock, a steep incline, and one good shove to guide its panic toward you. Then, when it's already stumbling, you strike. No saber, no leap, just a tackle and a suffocating grip around the windpipe. You win, not because of power, because of preparation. The kill is clean, efficient, no extra movement, no wasted pain. You drag the body uphill to a spot the wolves can't easily access. You don't eat immediately, you wait. You watch. And when the first shadow appears at the forest edge, a cautious snout testing your absence, you show yourself. Not leaping, just visible. A silent declaration. Not tonight. The shadow retreats. Historians still debate whether saber-tooths had the brain power for true deception. You've decided not to wait for their consensus. You're already rewriting the narrative. You eat that night in peace. Jaw trembling but functional. The broken fang untouched. A tool retired. And you don't feel weak. You feel like a strategist. Like a ghost in the grass. Like something they'll remember not for the kills but for the quiet way you stopped losing. You're walking when you see it. Just a faint scattering of bones in a place you've passed before. You've ignored them until now, too caught in hunger or pain or the delicate performance of staying alive with a broken saber. But something feels different today. The air is still. The sky low and thick with heat. Even the birds seem hesitant. You approach, ribs splayed like brittle fans. Scapula pressed into the earth, flattened by time. The skull cracked down the center from some long-forgotten collapse. But it's not the collapse that stops you. It's the teeth, or rather the absence of them. Both saber fangs broken. Not ripped out, not shattered in battle, just cleanly snapped mid-shaft long ago. The edges are worn down, not jagged, not fresh. They look like they were used that way, chewed with not through. You crouch beside it and sniff, as if the bones might still offer a scent. They don't, but they offer something else. Possibility. This animal lived long enough after breaking both sabers to wear those edges smooth. It didn't die the next day, maybe not even the next season. Historians still debate whether saber-tooth survival was possible after catastrophic fang loss, whether prey could be taken at all, whether such an animal became purely a scavenger, a thief, or just lucky. But you see something else here, a blueprint. Odd fact, rats' teeth never stop growing, which is why they chew constantly. Maybe this cat didn't grow its sabers back, but it reshaped them through use, through adaptation, through pure, stubborn repetition. You lie beside the bones without touching them. Your flank presses into the dust where its ribs once anchored muscle. You match the skeleton's angle. The sun cuts through the branches in narrow bars and lands across both of you in perfect symmetry, dead and living. You breathe. The skull doesn't. You blink. It never will again, but it made it, somehow. You rise and pace slowly around it, measuring the posture. The jaw is slightly misaligned like yours. The wear on the molars is heavier than average. You run your tongue along your own grinding teeth. You wonder if yours will start to shift too over time. Take more of the load. You sit and consider what life must have looked like with both sabers gone. Maybe slower, maybe shadier, maybe lonelier, but still life. You catch a sound in the underbrush and turn fast. Just a rodent, fast, twitchy, gone. But your instincts fired on all cylinders. No hesitation, no phantom pain spike, no instinctual wince at the thought of impact. You relax. A little. You chew on a piece of dried root. Not for food, but for practice. You grind it against your molars. Keep your jaw aligned, test pressure. You're starting to develop a new bite rhythm, one that doesn't use the broken saber at all. You shift your weight forward and grab the root with your forepaws. You use your neck, not your jaw, to control the bite angle. It works. Sort of. A workaround. The forest around you has changed. Or maybe it hasn't, but you have. You're quieter now, less present. Not invisible, but ignorable. That used to be unthinkable. Now it's survival. You revisit the skeleton once more before you leave. This time you touch it. Your paw brushes the cracked snout. Gently, almost reverently. You lower your head nose to nose with what you might become. And you don't feel fear. You feel instruction. Off-topic fact. Certain jellyfish are biologically immortal. They revert to earlier life stages when injured. You don't have that luxury, but you do have memory and a skull full of strategy. You move on. Past the hollow, past the familiar sense, into a new corridor of forest you've never dared enter. Not because you're fearless now, but because you understand something crucial. Pain doesn't mean you're finished. It just means you've begun the next version of yourself. You pass an old boulder with scratch marks. Yours, from weeks ago. Back when you still roared after every hunt. Back when you believed power came from volume, not from silence. You don't scratch it again. It's not your ritual anymore. You sleep that night near a cluster of thick vines, the kind that conceal that cocoon. You curl inward, breathing slow, careful, practiced. You're not the same animal who chipped that fang. You're the animal who kept walking afterward. And maybe that's even harder. You start using your eyes more, not just to see prey, but to read terrain, shadows, movement. You learn how the wind flows through a valley before deciding where to lie in wait. You start setting up ambushes hours in advance. You watch the sun's arc. You time the herd's breaks. You become patient in a way that would make your younger self snort. And you stop lunging. That's the first real sign that something's changed for good. You don't charge anymore. You guide. You wait for an animal to make the mistake you predicted, and then you capitalize. Tonight the air smells of dry grass and something else, storm maybe. The animals feel it too. They move with more urgency, tighter together. But that doesn't stop the smallest one from wandering. A juvenile deer thing. Maybe ill, maybe just confident. You watch it from between the ferns, your breath low, your pulse steady. You do not leap, you lead it. You move slowly like a branch in wind, shifting its direction. You prod it with silence. Steer it with tension. You guide it toward a shallow depression in the land, a place you've marked, scouted, prepared. And when it steps in, you pounce not from above, but from the side, your full weight pinning its legs. You don't go for the throat. You crush the lungs, suffocate. Use gravity, not force. It dies, quietly. You do not roar, you eat. Slowly, with focus. You chew with your molars. You position your jaw carefully, only once grazing the broken fang. The pain still exists, but now it's background music, not a lead singer. Odd fact, crocodiles have sensors in their jaws that detect the slightest movement in water. You've begun to feel like that, sensitive to ripple, to rhythm, to subtlety. The storm doesn't break that night, but the clouds gather like an audience. You rest beneath a fallen log belly, full bones humming with a strange new clarity. This kill wasn't luck. It wasn't desperation. It was intellect. You rise with the wind the next morning and decide to test something new, herding. Not like wolves, not with teeth and speed, but with pressure. You circle the herd at dawn, not to attack but to shape. Your presence is a lever, your scent a push. You stay upwind and nudge them left, then vanish, then reappear again hours later from a different angle. Eventually, they flow like water toward the rocky gulch you remember from your youth. You wait there. You pick off the tired one. Not with a grand leap, not with a saber flash, just with timing. Historians still debate how strategic saber-tooths were. Did they improvise? Did they plan days ahead? Or were they just single-minded instruments of murder? You're rewriting that debate with every breath. You eat your fill before the buzzards arrive. When they do, they don't approach. They land nearby heads, cocked, unsure. This is the first time in weeks they've waited. You must look different now. Not stronger, but harder to interpret. That's its own kind of danger. You find yourself limping less, though you still favor the good side. You no longer wince at every bite. You even test the chipped fang once, pressing it gently into a strip of tendon. It's duller now. Your body's been filing it down without asking. You accept this. Off-topic fact, parrots will use their beaks like a third foot for climbing. Evolution finds tools in the strangest places. You've begun to treat your whole body like a tool. Your tail helps guide balance on uneven ground. Your ears help detect breath behind brush. Your shadow. You use it to intimidate smaller predators without lifting a paw. You've become tactical. One evening, a younger saber-tooth crosses your path. She's quick, lean, vibrant. Her coat hasn't faded yet. Her teeth flash in the sun. She sees you. She tilts her head. Smells your bloodline. Notices the limp, the crooked jaw. She steps back, not out of fear, out of uncertainty. You nod once. She nods back. Then she moves on. You watch her go and feel nothing but a kind of quiet satisfaction. You're not the threat you once were, but you're still known, and sometimes mystery is a better weapon than certainty. You sleep under the stars that night, not in hiding, but on high ground, where the wind can speak to you clearly, where the trees part and the moon can trace the new outline of who you've become. Not the biggest, not the loudest, but the one who sees before striking, who waits before moving, who plans before bleeding. You've become what few saber-tooths ever had the time or injury to become: efficient. You don't draw eyes like you used to. Once your walk alone turned heads, prey scattered, scavengers vanished. Rivals stared too long and then looked away. You were the answer to a question no animal wanted to ask twice. Now, when you move through the clearing, you don't clear it. A few birds take flight. A young predator sniffs your trail and loses interest. A rodent watches you pass with boldness. It wouldn't have dared a month ago. It stings, but not enough to stop you. You're not feared anymore, but you are remembered. Odd fact, some sharks can detect electrical signals from the muscles of their prey. You can't do that. But lately, you've been picking up something else, an emotional ripple in the forest's tempo. Where once there was alarm, there is now recognition. You lie low in the reeds near the watering hole, watching the same herd you've studied for days. You don't stalk them. You shadow them. You map their habits. You wait for terrain to do your work. A broken log here, a loose patch of stone there. It's not dominance anymore. It's design. You've stopped chasing because you know how the chase ends with your jaw on fire, your lungs screaming, and vultures eating your leftovers. So now you invite mistakes. You let the herd tire itself out. And when something falters, you're already there. Tonight, that mistake is a calf slipping on wet clay. No fracture, no drama, just a slow fall and a longer recovery than usual. The others move on. You step forward, not leaping, not roaring, just stepping. The kill is quiet. No saber needed. Historians still debate the upper limit of saber-tooth intelligence. Their brains were large but differently shaped than those of modern cats. Some say they were specialized to a fault. You, however, are living proof of a different possibility. You've transcended specialization. You're working with a custom blueprint now. Later that night, as you gnaw the final strip of gristle from bone, you hear something behind you. A growl, not sharp, not challenging, just inquisitive. You turn slowly. It's a cougar, much smaller, younger, muscular, watching. She looks at your face, at your limp, at the way your fang catches moonlight on only one side. Then she does something odd. She sits. She's not here to fight. She's curious. You stare at her. She tilts her head, flicks her tail once. A conversation happens not with sound, but with breath. A recognition of paths walked and choices made. You're not the king anymore, but you're a story. Off-topic fact: elephants have been seen tracing the bones of their dead with their trunks. Memory is survival too. Eventually, the cougar slinks off, uninterested in your kill. Or maybe just respectful of it. You drag the rest to a thicket and sleep beside it, more alert than usual, but calm. In the morning, you stretch long and slow, listening to your joints creak. The ache in your jaw is manageable now. You don't avoid it, you just work around it. You make your rounds through familiar paths, not to patrol, but to remind the forest you're still here. You cross old claw marks. Yours, but faded. Moss grows over them. Rain has softened others. You run a paw along one, not to sharpen it, but to feel its age. You've left a mark. Even if no one flinches at your scent anymore, the memory of you lingers. A predator who changed, who adapted, who didn't die when the tooth snapped. That's not power, that's persistence. You climb to the overlook, where the wind always cuts sharpest, and sit. You let it tousle your fur. You let the world move below you, herds grazing, birds circling, storms gathering on the distant horizon. You're not the main event anymore, but you're still in the program. You've moved past the moment when your name was carved in fang. Now you write in footsteps, in patterns, in how long your silence lasts before the strike. You rest your head on your paws and close your eyes. Sleep comes easier now, not because you're safe, but because you're known. And sometimes being remembered is more dangerous than being feared. The day is dry, cracked like the soles of your feet after too many hot summers. Dust rides the breeze in waves. The air smells like heat itself, baked leaves, slow-rot minerals pulling apart under the sun. You haven't eaten in 2 days. It's not for lack of trying. You stalked something last night. A heavy-limbed ground bird, stupid enough to sing while foraging, but it was quicker than it looked. You didn't even bother to run full speed. You could feel the sting in your jaw before you opened your mouth. So now you wander? Slowly, the way mountains age. And you feel it before you see it, a presence. You're in a valley where the earth dips low and the trees open into a quiet bowl of shadow. The ground here is soft, unusual. And that's when you notice the smell. Not meat, not prey. Challenger. Your fur bristles before you even turn your head. A shape appears at the far end of the valley, broad-shouldered, wide-jawed, walking like it owns gravity. A saber-tooth. Male. Thick-necked dewlap swinging. Younger than you, but not by much. His eyes lock with yours. There's no roar, no posturing, just stillness. He knows what you are. He sees the fang, or what's left of it, the limp, the posture, your crooked silhouette, and you see it on his face dismissal, not of you as a threat, but of you as a worthy story. Odd fact in some primate societies, older males are not challenged, they're ignored. And in predator terms, that's worse. He circles you, not aggressively, just testing. You shift slightly to keep him in view. Every breath he takes sounds louder than yours. Every paw step lands heavier. He's letting you feel your own obsolescence. You want to snarl, but you don't. You want to bluff charge, but you don't. Because this isn't about rage. It's about recognition. He's not hungry. He's here because you're in his way. And you stand your ground. Quiet, centered. But you do not move forward. He sees it, smells it, the calculation in you, the strategy. He knows you won't fight. He knows you can't win. He lunges. Not a full attack, just a hard thudding shove of shoulder into shoulder. You stumble back a step. The fang buzzes in its socket. Pain rings your skull. You hold your stance but dip your head. Not submission, just realism. Historians still debate whether saber-tooth battles ended in blood or were won through posturing alone. You've come to believe that presence matters more than power. He steps toward the center of the clearing, pisses on a log, scratches a tree, claims. You walk away. Off-topic fact. Some birds fake injuries to lure predators away from their nests. You wonder if that's what you've been doing this whole time, pretending to be more broken than you are just to survive another day. You find a dry stream bed and curl in the shadow of a root. You bleed a little from the lip. Not enough to matter. Enough to sting. And you think, this is the moment the myth ends. This is the part of the story no one tells. The last hunt is not yours. You don't get to go out in a blaze. You don't get to die mid-pounce fang buried in something worthy. You get to walk away from the fight you didn't take. And that's survival. It is also silence. You sleep light that night. Wind rolls through your ear. You twitch at the sound of a beetle's wings. You dream of thunder but wake to stillness. You dream of the younger male, only now you are him and he is you. Your mouth is full of ivory again, but you don't trust it. You bite and everything shatters. You wake with your jaw clenched and a twig in your mouth. Instinct, practice, phantom strikes. The day is already warming when you rise. You stretch bones, popping tongue dry. You follow a familiar trail, but this time you avoid the usual kill zones. No prey today. No ambitions. You just move to be part of the land again, to melt into it. Because now you've joined a different category of creature, the remembered but not respected. The shadow of the age you once ruled. But even shadows can haunt, and the wind still smells like you. The earth is quiet now. Not the kind of quiet that comes before a hunt or after a kill, but the deeper kind. The quiet of endings, of sun-baked bones and grass grown tall through rib cages. The kind that makes your footsteps feel loud even when they aren't. You haven't eaten in 3 days? But hunger isn't what you feel most. It's distance. From the forest. From the creatures who once scattered. From the idea of yourself you used to believe in. You walk through the valley like smoke, thin, directionless, unavoidable. At the base of a hill, you stop to drink. The water is low, warm, green with age. You lower your head, your reflection warps in the ripples. One fang still long curved, catching the light like an old sword. The other, a pale nub, dull-edged, swallowed by your lip. The symmetry is gone. But in that warped reflection there's still something. Not strength, not power. Memory. You blink slowly and step back. Odd fact, when stars die, they don't disappear. They collapse, then echo across the sky in radiation for millions of years. Quietly announcing they once existed. You hear rustling in the trees behind you. Small prey, maybe? Could be easy. Could be fatal. You don't turn. You walk uphill. Every step is slower now. Your joints grind, your breath hitching. Your shoulder aches, where it met the young male's push. You haven't healed. You've simply continued. Historians still debate how long saber-tooths could live in the wild without full fang function. Most never got the chance. Most didn't limp this long through territory they no longer ruled. But you did. And today the world will outlive you. At the top of the ridge, you pause. The breeze lifts your fur. You sit. Back legs folded, front paws wide. The hunter's thrown one last time. The sky is wide above you, cloudless, endless, heavy with heat. Your body is tired. The kind of tired that doesn't ask for rest, only release. Below, the forest moves on. Prey grazes. Predators circle. And you are no longer part of the pattern. You lie down, stretch out on your side, eyes half-lidded, breath shallow. And for the first time since your fang broke, your jaw doesn't ache, because you're letting it go. You sleep, deep, final. Centuries pass. The ridge changes. The trees shift. The water below dries to stone. And one day, in a world with cities and schools and shoes, a child walks into a museum. She stands in front of your fossil, your skull on display, a slightly open, fang clearly notched. She doesn't notice at first. She reads the plaque. Smilodon fatalis, saber-toothed cat, California, late Pleistocene. Then she tilts her head, frowns. Why's one tooth shorter, she asks. Her parent shrugs. She kneels, looks closer, traces the crack with her eyes. And for a second, only a second, she imagines you alive. Not as a monster, not as a myth, but as a story. Off-topic fact. Human children are biologically wired to recognize faces even in clouds or fossils. She sees yours, and she remembers. Not your roar, not your leap, but your survival. That's how your echo lives now. Not in dominance, but in what you endured. Not in fear, but in how you walked forward with a broken weapon, still hunting, still breathing, still there. The story of a broken fang is not about defeat, it's about adaptation. In this second-person journey through the eyes of a saber-toothed cat, we follow the slow unraveling of an apex predator's certainty. A chipped fang becomes more than a wound, it becomes a riddle. One the forest doesn't wait to solve. From the perfect strike that led to the fracture, to the slow, painful realization that dominance cannot last. We watched this animal shift. It loses its place in the pecking order. Wolves test its weakness. Hyenas laugh at its retreat. Even the forest's silence becomes sharper. And yet it continues. Through pain, it begins to hunt differently. Strategically. It watches instead of charges. Learns shadows. Uses terrain. The fang doesn't regrow, but the mind sharpens. Eventually, this once feared hunter is no longer feared, but it is remembered. Revered by some, avoided by others, not for strength but for persistence. In the final moments, the saber-tooth doesn't die in battle. It dies in rest, on a hill it once owned in a world that moved on without it. Not with glory, but with grace. And yet its bones tell the story. A broken fang on a museum shelf. A child curious. A question asked. This is the echo of survival. Not loud, but permanent.